with Bill in Sussex County as a facilitator. He was facilitating pollution control strategy meetings for the Center for the Inland Bays, or for the, I guess, DENREC. So that's been a few years, but I think, as the mayor said, everybody knows Bill and Carol Ann. Carol Ann is the former secretary of the Department of Transportation, and Bill has been with Cooperative Extension, Rural Development, and he's just kind of a fixture here and has been a facilitator of many of the difficult discussions in the region for many years. So we'll start with introductions. I think everybody knows everybody, but we'll start with introductions, and then what we will do is you have now the schedule in front of you and some other materials, and Bill and Carol Ann will walk you all through how we get to prioritizing what we do for the 5-year review for the comprehensive plan. I think one of the things that we found in some of the discussions is that some of the policy interests may be changing, so there may be some change of direction, some supplemental information, and we want to make sure that we do a scope that's going to give our comp plan life to get us through the next 5 years until we do a full rewrite or update. So with that, I'll give it to Bill.
Okay. Oh, cool. Well, thank you, Anne Marie. Thanks for having us here tonight, teams. First off, quickly, what I'll do is we're going to work in small groups. But first, I always like to start with ground rules. Everybody likes them, and I like them too. So basically, it's a kitchen table. Have a kitchen table conversation, right? Everyone participates, no one dominates. And that's important because we've got some time constraints tonight. There are no right answers. Draw on your own experiences, your values and beliefs, and you don't have to be an expert. Thank God for that, right? Keep an open mind. Listen carefully to understand, all right? Help keep the discussion on track. Stick to the task. Try not to ramble. And lastly, it's okay to disagree, but don't be disagreeable. Common sense stuff, and I know you have all worked together and you understand them, but it's nice to repeat them because now you're all in charge of the ground rules. Fair enough? Fair enough. All right, so you should have 3 pieces of paper in front of you, right? So you've got your, what's been done since the last comp plan. You've got an update? 4?
Yeah, we have 4.
Well, we also.
No, that's a text.
Right, right. You got your agenda, you have your, but, so really the 2 pieces that you need to be paying attention to are your policies, your recommendations, and what has been accomplished, right? So hopefully, have you had time to review that? That's okay, you'll have time when you're sitting down at the table. You have the agenda, and in that agenda is kind of how we're going to work here tonight. And then the last one is, you know, God bless Lewis, because you have these really cool things called core values. And I live in Laurel. Does anybody know where Laurel is?
Sure.
I just want to be sure. I want to be sure, because I will tell you a story. One night I was at the library facilitating a group of 80 people in the Lewis Library, and I asked for a show of hands of how many people have been to Laurel. How many hands do you think went up in that room?
None.
1. It was me. We're the bookend. We're on the other side of Route 9. It's a different world, right?
Yeah, it is.
But your core values are so important. And I've watched Lewis struggle with them. I've watched them hold tight to those core values. And they are so, they're just so, they're an example. I mean, Carol Ann have used your core values with other cities and towns that we work with. You have them, you pay attention to them, and that's important tonight when you're especially doing your comp plan. So you have them. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to break you into 4 groups of 3. It'll be a little complicated here just because, not complicated, but two members of the commission and the council will be on phone. So I'm going to have to ask somebody in the group that they're assigned to give them a call so they can participate. Okay? So what you'll do in your small group is each small group will work on one policy recommendation, right? You're not working on the same one. Each one will work on a different one. And what your task is to review what you have, see what's been accomplished, and then think about what you need to do for comments, to develop some comments for scope of work. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sometimes a little vague, but that's it. I mean, the other piece too, as an admonition, if you will, something to keep in your back of mind, you're not writing the plan. This is a scope of work. So you're really taking a policy segment, seeing what you had the last time, thinking about seeing what's been accomplished, and then adding or subtracting where you think the contractor needs to go when they're working on that piece. Fair enough?
So once you all have had time to be in your small groups, we want to be sure everybody has an opportunity to hear and participate in every policy and all the thoughts. So we're going to ask you then to report out to the larger group, and then we're going to continue to describe what those additional comments and suggestions, recommendations are. So it'll be a comprehensive, information that gets prepared for each one of your policies that you have. And so that way, nothing will be left unheard, and everybody will be able to chance, and also to understand what your original comments were and the perspectives that came from those. So does that make sense?
Yep.
So we'll just keep working through each of them and hopefully have a robust discussion of them and see what we need to do to keep making sure that the scope of work that you guys generate from this will then give you the update that you need to then take to the citizenry of Lewis. So, all right, great. So, so you all have had, as Bill said, in front of you, and hopefully before this, a little time to look at your policies and recommendations and your accomplishments that have come so far. So what I'd like for each of you to do is just to give me, as we go around the room, give me like a one-word response to what your perspective is on those policies, recommendations, and accomplishments. Just your sense of where you are with them. Since it's now kind of a benchmark of where we are in the comp plan, I'd like to just kind of get a gut check on what your thoughts are. Who'd like to start? Mr. Mayor?
Well, having been part of the development of the comp plan.
Yeah, how about that?
I think what we set out was ambitious.
Okay,
and-
ambitious?
But I also think it's doable. And so those would be the two words I would put to it.
Ambitious but doable.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay. Who goes next? Who like? Deb?
I would just say protection. That would,
Protection? Great. Protection of the resources and all
Of Lewis.
all that you, all your core values.
yes.
Okay. Who else? Nancy?
I would say midway. A lot of work's been done, and a lot of work still needs to be done, so.
Good. That's what happens when you're ambitious. You still have a lot of hard work to do.
I would say disconnect. I think there's some things that our comp plan points towards that our code doesn't support.
So say that again.
Joe, can you hear me?
disconnect.
Yeah.
I can hear you, Khalil. You're the clearest one here.
I can't hear anything you're saying.
Okay.
It's so garbled.
All right, let's call you
I'm
in.
garbled?
I'll call you in
No,
on my
they
phone.
are.
I'll call you in
Oh,
on my
yeah,
phone.
it's like they're in a rain barrel, yeah.
It's probably the masks with the mic or the
No,
mics
it's
on.
not.
I'll just wait for the
Our-
breakout groups when they call me.
Yeah,
I'll be
okay.
better.
Calling
I'll
Joe
stand by.
Wagner.
I think Joe is saying he's having the same problem.
That's why I said that. Khalil, you're on my speakerphone now, so you'll be able to hear, okay? Can you
Okay.
hear now?
I'm sorry, Andrew. Can you repeat your
Sure.
sentence?
The word I used was disconnect, and what I mean by that is, there's some areas that our comp plan points us towards that our code doesn't support or enforce.
Okay, good point. Good observation. Bob?
I'd say that core values are great. I think that the
Yeah.
city's work and codes don't measure up to that.
Okay.
And
again, disconnect.
I will further say that, it's more than one word, but a lot of the work that the planning commissions and subcommittees have done has been pushed to the side,
I can't hear.
to its detriment.
Push to the side.
Okay.
a lot of work in the subcommittees has been pushed aside.
Thanks.
I think the planning document, the comp plan, it has to be aspirational. It has to be not yesterday's news, but tomorrow's news. It has to look to the future. And while I agree with council member in saying there is some disconnect, I don't think that's all bad, because I think it's something we should strive for, and that's going to change over time. But I do think it has to be at least as much aspirational as it is historically, factual.
Great.
No, I was just going to second his motion on that in terms of trying to us get into it and make sure that we are going in the right direction, but a lot of it seems like it's a little bit antiquated, so I look forward to moving forward and how to make that change.
How to make that happen.
Yeah.
Devil's in the details.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tim?
I understand the point that Drew made with respect to the comp plan being aspirational. I do think that there is a serious disconnect between what we aspire to be, what we want, our vision, and that we don't have the tools in place to actually achieve that vision.
Okay.
And so it speaks to, I support the idea that there is a disconnect there.
Great. And Melanie? I'm not sure if you heard what we were going around and just...
I'm sorry, I missed it.
No, that's fine. Just to catch you up. So we were just going over the fact that taking a pulse on the policy recommendations and the things that you've accomplished, just to kind of give me your gut reaction to your perspective on how all that is.
Well, I would say that there's a vagueness, perhaps, that we need to hone and sharpen and be more direct in what we say, so that it's very clear what our intent is and where we're going with it.
Be more specific.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you,
You
everyone.
may want to hear from two people that are on
Oh, I'm
cell
sorry.
phones.
Thank
One
you.
is Khalil.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Khaliba. Khalil, do you want to answer the question? Khalil? Okay.
Joe, can you hear me? They can't hear anybody.
No, they're not gonna.
Hello, Khalil.
I heard you. I just didn't hear the question, to be honest, and so I better pass for now.
Okay, well, the question, and Carol Ann can restate it. The question is, looking at the comp plan that we have and the goals we've achieved, as we've set out and what we've achieved, what would you say is your
take on it. What's your perspective on where you've been and what you have accomplished?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Well, the first thing I want to get some clarity on is in fact the comp plan legally binding?
Yes. Yes. Did you hear that?
I heard that.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm just simply not prepared to answer that question right now with any kind of specificity, so
Okay,
I'm just gonna pass.
that's fine.
That's fine. We're going to get into the small groups and have the time to talk more specifically. So this was just to kind of get a sense of the group, and anybody wanted to give their their initial reactions to the things that they've seen on the handouts.
Joe, are you able to give your reaction?
Well, the reaction is, it sounds like feeding time at the monkey house. I mean, I'm getting feedback, and it's just
That's what that sounds like.
unreadable. I can only hear Drew, but that's it.
Okay.
Sorry, Joe.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to.
Well, it'll improve when we're in the smaller groups, I think, because then
Yeah.
it'll be confined to
Right.
the individuals.
Okay.
So this is really how we assess. Now, that was the first assessment. So The clue was it was supposed to be a one-word answer. So over here, I caught vague. That would have worked, right? So that's our first assessment. But other than that, it gives us kind of an idea of where we are, you know what I mean? Disconnect, I got that. So that's one. Second one is getting you into small groups. So I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 2 on the phone. So
And you have 2 audience members who are from the public, if you want to involve them.
that's up to you. I mean, that's up to you.
Okay.
That's
All
up
right,
to you.
well, then they'll just wait until we finish. Okay.
My preference would be if you guys, if you folks would be willing to work in threes, but I would have one group of 2. Is that okay with that? So we've got 12 to get through or go through, 13. So it's either 3 groups of 4 or 4 groups of 3. And I think the 3 would give more voice
Right, that's
when you're
fine.
in conversation.
That's fine, go ahead.
All right, let's do that.
I just wonder if we shouldn't involve the people who are here, if we,
Why
I mean, we have a shortage of bulking out the groups. I
Sure,
think that's up
yeah.
to the mayor, obviously.
I mean, that's fine if you.
Yeah, we don't have any problem with that.
If you all would like to participate.
You guys want to play?
Yeah.
Sure. There you go. All right. So all I need, the most important thing is that there's a mix of planning commission and council. So what I think we do would probably be more comfortable for all of you just to sit at a table. So this table can slide this way, 2 people can sit there, 1 person can sit here. Drew, I think your table you can probably stay where you are.
Yeah, we're not moving.
Well,
This is my boss. Listen to her.
I hear that. And then, maybe this crew can slide down there to here, and then Ted, maybe you slide over to that corner. I think that should give you enough room that you're not gonna be stepping on each other voice-wise.
Right.
But we're not mixed very.
No, mix yourselves up.
Okay, so.
This is our second, this is
Somebody
the
needs-
2-part test here.
At least one council person needs to go down with
Those-
Melanie.
yeah,
I
those
could
are
do
two-
that, or.
those are
I
two
was
planners.
an elementary teacher.
I beg your pardon?
Okay, council person to each corner. How many, we have 4
Well,
groups?
that's council person, there are 4 of us here.
Yes.
We do need one over here.
We need one,
Yeah,
okay,
somebody
so
move
Tim,
over
you wanna
here.
go over there?
This is your next test.
Okay, Tim, why don't you go over there? I can go down. Are you gonna work with Deborah, or do you want?
I'll work with Deborah.
Okay,
Joe.
and then I'll come down with Melody.
I don't know if you're gonna be able to get it.
Right.
Oh, it's a real Here we go. That's it.
Okay. So we a group?
We're a group, and
All right,
Tim's
let's-
coming over here.
Okay, fine.
Sorry.
Do we know which?
Well, we don't know what you.
I'm going
And
to,
then,
Oh, thank
do we
you.
have anyone who's gonna join us from the,
Okey-doke.
pull up a chair, join us, please. Do we have anyone we have to call on the phone? I don't have my phone with us. With me. They've got the phone people, so, okay.
So.
You got a lot of those there.
I guess we need to pick up Khalil. Okay, so we'll go on back.
Just tell us what we're supposed to do first. Talk to me.
Joe Hoffner.
It's right here.
you got Joe?
Yeah, we think.
Okay, so you're in the group here with
Second
Melody,
one.
Mosher, and myself.
I can't hear you.
We're gonna be the 3
I don't think he's gonna,
I'm gonna do it right now.
okay.
Everybody with me? Yes, we're with you.
All right, go.
So what I'm gonna do right now, so at the top of your sheet, write down what you're gonna be working on, okay? So why don't you do community facilities plan?
Okay, we're doing what?
You start with the utility plan?
Okay.
So we got
No,
the
he
second
just
one.
gave us one.
How about you guys,
We're gonna keep doing it.
historic and cultural?
Oh, that's how you're gonna do it.
Okay.
All right. Ted,
Anyone have good handwriting?
okay.
Yeah, this is a,
I've tried that.
This is the first round.
Okay.
So what we'd like to do, now that you all have your topics,
yeah.
if you could take 15 minutes, right? So you got 15 minutes to kind of do your work in small groups, and then we'll report back on what you've accomplished. Fair enough? 15 minutes. It's gonna be
Great.
tight. So,
Khalil, do you have this document in front of you?
I don't, I think it wasn't on the, what do you wanna call it,
And I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah, that's not gonna.
Okay, they're gonna email it to you,
Not
okay?
with you, you did,
Oh, just
an
this.
off, right? Okay.
Can you let Joe and
Khalil.
Khalil know that they can leave Zoom? And
Okay.
when we go back into the large group, YouTube will be better.
Okay.
YouTube is
All right,
just
so
a
we
network.
Anne
get
Marie,
off,
do we
get
have
off
to
the
have the
Zoom
mics
and you
on
go on
for
YouTube and we go
purposes
back
of
together, okay?
Yeah.
Thanks. Put my cell phone
Here, wait,
doesn't die.
please, Well, like I said,
I'm down
we
on
can't
battery.
turn it off.
But it's causing feedback. I'm Deputy Boss, obviously, I'm.
Okay.
But we can't turn it
So
off.
basically, this is, our task is to talk about open space and recreation plan.
That's nice to
And
meet you,
the
so.
first
I
bullet
guess-
says seeking ways to increase ecotourism opportunities, continuing support for water taxi,
Develop a
and working with Denmark to extend canoe, kayak, hiking, and
Review the
bicycle
policy,
recreation.
review the
Ongoing,
Yeah, you
comments,
gotta
discuss and
do
develop
everything
3
is
to 5
ongoing
comments that will
here.
frame.
Worked with Del.Dot to
Scope of
design
No, you
and
gotta take
improve
a-
bicycle
something-
pedestrian
no,
Ours is pretty short.
Yeah, I gotta turn these off.
that we've already, basically that's,
So it's on the second page, we have historic and cultural resources plan.
Yes, right.
The one thing they recommended in terms of community facilities plan was that they review the role of all city boards, and that's what's coming out of that is forming cards.
Joe, do you have any thoughts on this?
And that's new stuff. But when I think of community, so under historical cultural resources, as the word that, so I think we should say, reviewing the functional role of city boards. Now let's talk about what we need to do on our role. So if we look at it over
Architectural review,
it says,
HPC, and that is completed officially, right?
Ironically, it's not quite, so this on the 13th it will be, it was never, done.
No, 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 Joe, no.
That's one that was
not-
part of that.
That's not what we're
Hodgepodge
doing.
Utility plan is a
ordinances,
little
so
bit
they
different.
pulled that one out, so that, it should
It's
be
focused on
done. Now, the one thing I would say,
Lewis will continue to
on
work
this
with
one
the
that's
Board
come
of
to
Public
light, you
Works
know, if you
facilities to
look at,
residents
like you
and
said, in the
proposed
deeper part of
annexation
this, you talk about LHS and stuff, is, you
Well,
know, the sort of rift that's developed
Okay, that's
there
one
between
thing.
And that's
H Park and
the
LHS
theme
and what,
of
you know,
the utility
what
plan, and
potentially
then
could
it
be
talks
done
about
there.
How?
working with DPW,
Sort of
meetings
foster,
and stuff,
you know,
submitting comments about
I
rezoning.
know that Anne Marie
But see, that's exactly
mentioned that
the
in the memo after the
And
Menhaden
then
decision by the Board of
infrastructure
Justice.
update about utility
Yeah.
lines
We may work
along
with
the
people
Savannah, Gills
from
Neck,
the
and Pilot Town.
I just think it
And
may be
that-
the wrong.
that's
State
it.
preservation,
And that's
they
all
get their
we're
guidance.
That's all we're talking
Is
about.
it work? Some, yeah, is that him? Yeah.
Yeah, I can never recall what that's been for, but it is.
Yes.
Yeah, so while that's completed, you know, this, we're still, I think, trying to figure out what the function and role would be.
I'm not.
LHS's name here in the comp plan, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, but Joe,
Yeah, but you
Joe,
don't
hang
get-
on a second.
We're still,
There are many groups, there are groups working on various parts of this. Ours is specifically focused on the city's relationship with BPW.
Exactly. And
Not
that's
on,
it.
not on implementation.
No, no. The fact that,
Continue to
I mean,
foster a shared
right
vision
now,
between
after
that.
negotiation with the two, and they finally come together, we're working very hard. We're working hand in hand with the BPW right now, on capital projects and everything, and it's working,
I think Tim would
working
also
very
agree
well,
with the scenic
probably
highways, for
how they did it
example. I don't think
before.
that.
But we work very much as a
It's
team.
leveraging more.
And this is
in some-
basically
you know, like
saying,
sometimes
that's what we're doing. So what the
recently,
input is from you is, do you think that's
Del.Dot
working,
was sort
should
of part, you
continue
know,
on going, or whatever?
bus stop bench. by
Or what
Sunnyvale.
changes should be made?
So, well, yeah,
They were
what
pretty
changes do you
upset
think
that
should be made?
they
The
weren't-
relationship with BPW.
Yeah, because that's all we have to talk about at the moment.
In order to include, in order to revise the plan.
Well, we're just focused
Well,
on
we're
one
just-
aspect at the moment. That's,
Yeah, right.
we're very limited, narrower focus.
Community facilities, if we,
So,
But see,
I mean, I think they misunderstood that, I don't think we are.
we're working with one another.
I don't know, what do you think?
Everything. I said, we're moving in the right direction, probably, I don't know what they did before, but right now, we're moving definitely in the right direction. And, if we had to expound upon this in any way, I don't,
committees and commissions, because there's,
See, what would we do other than what we're already doing? So what do you think?
Well, I think we need to, from my perspective, we need to accentuate the wellhead protection effort. For example, we have not been able to be successful with getting the school board to give us
the other thing that we may want to be mindful of
Right.
which
here
is
is
necessary for us to get the wellhead.
Yes,
keeping with
yes,
diversity,
yes.
Annex
keeping a
non-contiguous
place
property.
at the table
And I think we need to make that
for
a priority.
African American
I understand
input
that's been
towards
the superintendent's position,
historic
not
and cultural
necessarily the school board's
resources.
position,
So leveraging
which is to
the,
say he had some other
because I think
problems
this was
someplace
prior to
else.
the creation
It
of
didn't
the
even work
African
for them there,
American.
so he doesn't want it to work for us
But I
now.
think we have to
So,
Yes,
force that in the school board to happen, because I think that is critical, particularly now given that it looks like there is gonna be commercial development of
all
some
along
magnitude
there.
across
Yes.
from the high school.
Yes.
historic,
We really need to protect both the wellheads and the Jones.
Yeah, because it's right there.
agencies and community,
totally
and
agree.
committee,
So
and
I
commissions.
think
let's
while it's
em-
ongoing, I think we need to
Put a heavy
reemphasize
emphasis on
on the wellhead protection.
it. Totally agree. So, totally agree.
Societies.
Are we supposed to write?
Go, Joe.
Oh, do you want us to write our thought down? Okay, for example, we just went through this, and since we're so involved with it, and especially since I'm on the council side, we probably have better relationship with DPW than we've ever had after we did the final negotiation and stuff. So what we want to concentrate on a specific area as it relates to this, and that would be the wellhead. So we would just, what, you want us to write it or tell you?
The manager, takes getting land on 24, and just, it was about.
Okay, fine.
In particular.
Right.
Emphasize wellhead.
Yeah, no, and I'm a terrible writer. My writing
Joe,
is terrible.
you were gonna say something?
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I want to, say,
Inclusion of voice, you know, the variety,
Not contiguous, but all
diversity of races.
Anne Marie? Could you explain the last sentence of the first bullet?
Not you two.
That can be more than just race as well, yeah.
yeah, but then we need to think about.
State strategy, it's not.
It sounds like one, we've identified
The well fields themselves.
three issues that we've identified. One is what's the scope of the area.
Of course.
Yeah, we know that part,
Right,
yeah.
that's what we're talking about. All right, so,
We'll still stick with well emphasized.
right.
Discussion of resources.
And then
Purple
two
is
was,
pretty.
um,
Purple's, you know what I do, I work.
what are the
I'm trying to go coast to side.
Resources, discussion of use of
and that's really
resources.
saying we need to have some data and stuff.
Or just the plan, historic, yeah, the cultural resources plan,
And discussion of
historic,
planning.
yeah, historic and
Resource
cultural
planning.
planning, yeah.
Okay, historic and cultural planning.
Annexation, yeah.
All right, and Joe, you want us to consider a charter amendment to allow non-contiguous space?
And I have another, I have.
Let's go with the third one.
Historic and cultural.
And then the third one I was thinking of was, does the codes with respect
Kind of
to
ideas,
communities reflect our values
I got it.
and what's in the current comprehensive plan for
Because I look at this, I see existing resources and strategies for
Right.
conservation. And then,
Should I put that down, or you,
but I think about, things like,
what I'm saying is,
I'm not just thinking about buildings.
does the code really reflect
Around the,
Anything else, Joe, about the
how
BBW?
Other,
facilities should be used
thing that I'm
based
when we get into.
Yeah, well, we know that.
Cultural resources.
Well, but we kind of work hand in hand finally, Joe.
have we translated,
Good day.
motherhood kind of statements about community that comes together, what's the first basis of America into
That's the first thing we want to ask.
code writers that, yeah.
It's okay.
Now we got another one, now we got the Fisher's Cove.
At this point, if we can
Hey, you know what? I'm just going to the next step, keep going.
All right, let's see,
encouraging
we want to say something about the enhanced protection of the infrastructure. As you know, as you may know, the resiliency committee is going ape, some members are going ape over the location of the water treatment plant.
Right.
Is that something that we should look at in the next 10 years? But it needs to be moved.
Yeah, but
Well, so maybe you could put that as a potential discussion is extending areas of the city
Well, I think in the
for
next 10
historic
years, we need to
preservation.
look at
movement.
the DPW
Yeah.
facility, whether it's reinforced or moved, there has to be some careful examination of the future of the treatment plant.
Oh, well, there's no question about that.
How the houses.
Well, Joe, I have the pen, so, you don't have to agree with me.
Yeah, it's not pretty on this end.
Others were done beautifully. There were huge examples of what to do. So I don't know how we can say that. So consider, whatever you want to consider.
Consider extending areas for residential review of historic, inclusion for historic review.
Okay, anything else you can think of, Joe?
It seems like that season keeps extending. I mean, it used to be.
Three things: emphasis on wetland protection and annexation.
Yep.
Charter amendment, allow non-contiguous property to be careful examination, DPW treatment plant, and so moved. Okay, now, I think we need to put up here high school.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, we
With the latest report from the building folks that the high school is going to try and build a new campus with 3 more schools, an elementary, and then municipal, and a high school someplace. They want to get 150 acres to do that, to build a campus.
Seriously.
Yeah, the population is growing sufficiently that they think they need 3 more buildings.
Dear God.
So,
Historic architecture.
talk to Mr. Pollack, Mr. Bill, and see what he has to say about that. They approved the preliminary feasibility study.
They did?
Recognizing the value of historic.
Hire a real estate agent and get consultants to try and figure out whether we're going to have to buy lots of parcels or is there one big parcel we can buy or do.
Citywide,
Oh, a lot of farmland around.
Yeah, it's just we need to lose more farm.
Am I hitting on the mark on that?
I think you just want to keep it fairly top level also, just in the sense of, it's a discussion.
We don't have anything
People might
left
have
here.
ideas about specifically, this area of town, or this cottage, or.
Don't even start. No, you got that right.
Including areas, how about saying including areas outside of.
We got to talk generically about that. Make sure we're going to be
Yeah, I
proposed.
could get rid of the word including.
Lawsuit.
I'm thinking and go for.
Don't even think about it. Life's too short. You don't have time to think about it. We'll just go on to the next one.
One of the strategies could be including expanding
You know that.
the
You know
purview
that. And it's,
of
look, I'm I do the right thing and make the right decision.
historic
I think
preservation
about what I do
outside
and
of
research
the.
more before I answer. That's it.
That's all you can do.
It's all I've ever done.
How about
Somebody else.
historic
Oh, you're gonna ask me to change
preservation
it.
outside.
Big no. I tell you who I am.
Expanding consideration,
No.
expanding,
Nope.
of historic districts.
It's okay. What's their subject matter?
To areas throughout the city.
Two other areas.
Historic ones throughout the city.
I mean, this has been going on for months. There was an incident where stopped and shot,
Not yet.
really harassed.
But in a way,
Dogs and
just about.
Like 1 minute.
Scope of historic district to.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Throughout the city.
So I referred that person. So I referred that person to the ACLU, and they're gonna take up the case. I want to meet with the chief and talk about it. it's a systemic identification here. We have a chief of color, community of color, and change some of the behavior.
Why would you have a teacher like I'm trying to get to him?
Well, it's, again,
I don't think they could hear you.
again, the last go around today was just
Yeah, it was
December
better
9th.
on YouTube.
And one of
Was
the-
it? Okay.
So it's a Zoom
It's
issue.
gonna be in Long Island.
This one does not see,
I turned it over.
Crazy.
okay, so yeah.
But we need to get this moving.
I think you got a
Yep.
hold of it.
I will. Everybody with me?
Yes.
All right, so
All right, Joe, can you hear?
All right, good.
So the way we're gonna do this is, we're gonna come around, and so I'm gonna read off the work that's been done, and then it's an open conversation. So just because you didn't work on it personally, you still get to take your shots. Fair enough?
Yep.
And
Okay.
it's all gonna be transcribed, so we're all gonna get it documented.
All right, and the only reason that I'm reading this is just to be, basically to just get through it, and then we'll open it up, okay? So this is community facilities plan, so we've got a couple bullets here. One, define scope. All right, so then need data on current usage levels and trends, very good. Enough bathrooms, additional facilities needed. 3, does the code support the vision in the comp plan, RE community facilities? Right, so codes and, comp plans and ordinances are two different things. 4, pay attention to seasonal trends. 5, new facilities needed, meeting spaces, EV charging stations, Wi-Fi, connectivity in public spaces. And lastly, emergency use plan for community spaces. All right? So that's kind of to consider in the scope of work for the community facilities plan. So now it's just a quick, any thoughts, additions, subtractions, questions?
Well, I guess a fundamental question, because Joe raised this point with us, we stuck in our utility plan to what was written here as the scope of the subject we're to talk about. None of that is in the first bullet, because that all only talks about reviewing committees of the city and commissions. It had nothing to do with facilities per se. So we were given we should be given license to talk about anything beyond BPW or anything beyond the bullet that's here. That's different than I thought we were charged with.
The bullet, well, Anne Marie, you want clarity on that? Because the bullet in your comp plan, that's one thing. But if you think it needs to be further explored or other items need to be further explored under the auspices of I think you had the utility plan.
Right.
Then I would say you have license to put that there.
What's missing?
Yeah, what's missing?
Yeah, I don't know whether we went beyond the scope by questioning the scope, but when we looked at the title and then looked at the item, we didn't, while we applaud the work that got done to pull together CARC, it didn't seem like the end point in terms
Right, it
of
wasn't
what we
community
need to look at in terms of
Right,
community
right, right.
facilities.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
I have a comment.
Outside of it.
There's been some community contribution about, or concern, I should say, about the sewage treatment plant location and sea level rise, and flooding. And that seems to be something that should be on our horizon.
okay,
Yeah.
duly noted.
yeah.
We're covering
And
that.
I should say, that's something we talked
have.
about, but we
Alright,
thought
good.
it was in another group.
Yeah, but we did.
Okay, good.
The other thing I would say is the lack of available land. Before you can talk about, what kind of community facilities you need to identify where there are pockets of land that can be developed.
Sure.
And so I think, you've gone in the right direction, but we need to do some behind-the-scenes work to make sure that we've identified there's 5 acres here or 2 acres there, or whatever, that we need to buy now so that it's available when we need it down the road.
Good, thank you.
They said we should go.
Other thoughts? Going once, going twice?
I have one more thought. We didn't mention, I think we should look at where we currently have porta potties, that in the long run, we would be better served to have actual facilities.
Done, okay. Is that okay for community facilities? So does everybody kind of get the flavor of how we're going to do this? Very good.
So Drew, do you want to take a few more minutes? Okay.
No, we just added some.
We added.
Okay, great.
Well, when we realized we could go
We shut
outside of
Joe
it a
down
little
because
bit.
he was going off in a direction that wasn't
Well,
circumscribed.
Right.
see, now we know Joe is on the
Yeah,
right track.
right.
Okay, so this is.
Hey, Joe, that's a first. We'll write that down.
Joe paid me. Okay, so this is for the utility plan, emphasis on wellhead protection and annexation, high school as an example. Charter amendment to allow non-contiguous property to be annexed. Careful examination of BPW treatment plant, enhance and/or more. Move. Enhance and/or move. Stormwater management throughout the city and protection of utility lines over time. That's all good stuff. Any other additions? Wow, look at that.
I would just make, I would just make a comment on the annexation piece, whether, I think this is the time to review whether the policy of annexation is wise in general, because you get the tax base, but you get all the benefits of paying for what comes along with it, like police force and streets and all of those other things. Whereas we could just let the BPW go forward with their mission. We don't necessarily need to require annexation. They have a service zone. It could still protect our wellheads.
May I ask a question? Could you read aloud the last bullet? Because I didn't understand it. I'd like to be clarified.
I think it was regarding the utilities, protecting
Protection of
utilities.
utility lines over time.
Over time. And is that
Like some of the,
undergrounding?
yeah, like, there's undergrounding going on in 3 or 4 streets now. The question is, should we
Should we do
continue
it
that
everywhere?
And
as
can
we
you-
go through repaving or
Okay.
reworking some of the streets?
Designating certain areas and prioritizing them.
Okay.
Do we have, I'm not sure, we captured Andrew's comments? Because you do have a policy statement on annexation.
Yep. It
So
does
we
encourage
can,
it currently, you're
we
right.
can continue on with, in that discussion there too.
Right.
Okay.
Could I just add one little thing onto what Drew was saying? Undergrounding utilities,
Utility.
especially wires, is a really significant element of resiliency and preparing for extreme weather events going forward. Yes.
Is that okay? We done with that one, utilities? All right, so this next one here is historic and cultural resources. Continue to foster a shared vision with all relevant local and state historic and cultural groups. Ensure inclusion and participation from diverse groups in discussion of historic and cultural planning. Consider strategies for the protection of the historic character of Lewis, including expanding scope of historic district to historic buildings throughout the city. Needs to be further explored.
And the need to be further explored is, what we were tasked with here was a really short statement. So we did just dive in to, because all it applied to was H Park and, if you look on the handout, the only thing that really was addressed up until this point was the function and role of the city boards and commissions. And we all felt that there was a lot more that needed to be considered underneath cultural resources and historic resources.
Open, thoughts, comments, additions?
I think one of the areas we should emphasize needs attention and protection is the Marine Commercial District. If we lose that part of the city, we lose a great deal of our core values, and I think we are in jeopardy in the short term of having some significant impact on the Marine Commercial District. And I think that should be a priority in the short term.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I almost think we need to have a bit of a survey of what we have in the city, because it seems like it's only when something is about to be removed, destroyed, or whatnot, that we suddenly, we hear the outcry about it being an historic or cultural resource that we want to preserve, but we don't really have, as far as I know, much of an inventory of what are the things in the city that are the most important to us?
You know, perhaps, so we kind of talked about it in really loose terms and tried to keep it high level, and just saying that expanding, looking at historic properties beyond just the historic district, but perhaps setting up criteria for what is a historic property, and really start going beyond and looking citywide.
Well, we do have all of that exist, we just need to utilize some of it.
Then there we go.
We've been paying for the last 7 years for an update of the historic inventory of
Yeah.
houses, and we need to better utilize it.
Can you all talk into the mic just for this? Because there are people on here.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, HPC had worked with the University of Delaware and the mayor and city council for the 7 years to do surveys of properties, which included photographic and other historical data. Again, I think, Ted, you spoke eloquently to say it's underutilized. It's sort of it's a secret resource that isn't widely known or shared.
Exactly.
And could I ask a follow-up question to that? It would be not only really interesting for this group, but also for citizens to see that, but also get some data on how many of those buildings are no longer here. What have we lost in the last 7 years?
You know, someone would have to do that. That's another project.
I could do
Sure,
that
I think it's a
project.
great project, you know?
I would do that project.
We've seen major metropolitan areas that have done that all over the world. So, anyway.
Okay,
That's done?
and our next group here, open space and recreation, utilization of the Great Marsh Park, and overall master plan. Railroad right-of-way usage, Gill's Neck, Monroe,
Gills Neck to Monroe.
to Monroe, a master plan with DelDOT to help make that happen. A bike master plan of Pilot Town Road, a light at, is this connected with the speed limit?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're 2 and 3.
And speed limit
Between Gills
between
Neck.
Gill's Neck and Savannah, look at the safety and look at how that's being controlled there in connection with the bike master plan, to do that together for the full safety of multimodal. Green Hill Light, an old study, but potentially there's a historic site that's there, and then that may be an issue of how to deal with the signalization there, so further assessment of that, but yet there's still an issue. Connect the trail across the canal. Okay.
And there's a page.
Oh, there's more.
Another item.
And Blockhouse Pond, the water quality.
What did you
Water
say?
quality.
Water quality at Blockhouse Pond.
It was a tongue twister for me for some reason. Any additions?
Well, I'm surprised you
Clarification?
didn't have Venetian blinds in there.
The other addition I think we might want to think about is when we look at open space overall within the city and the kind of inventory of open space we have, do we have the right mix? And I'm thinking mix in terms of recreational use versus kind of scenic, quiet contemplation use versus, you know, you can go on and on to you know, different types of uses. So that in our overall plan, we have some sense of, are there things that we want to, you know, that we want to enhance? And do we think we already have enough of something, or is it, you know?
Yeah. Because of the marsh, we have 52% open space in the community. So, but that doesn't mean it's all usable.
That doesn't mean it's all usable.
Yeah, there aren't pickleball courts on the marsh.
Yeah.
We're thinking about a flotation pickleball.
Ecotourism.
Yeah.
You can have
All right,
both of them.
so I guess you guys have the hang of it now. I think
Yeah.
these great comments, great 10,000-foot level issues and things that are still specific to what you need to have.
You can hear us, Joe?
in scope. So we're gonna keep on going, if everybody's good with that. And this group over here, you guys are gonna do the environmental protection plan. And
No, we're still here.
Wow, this is a long one. This is-
He hung up.
You just lost them, right?
Yeah.
This next one's a big one too, infrastructure and transportation.
We're gonna get to basically the same
Oh,
thing.
we're gonna get the bad ones
community
out.
design plan.
Yeah, we're still
Okay,
here, we
we're
were still
still
talking
here.
to you. Our new subject
Okay.
is infrastructure and transportation.
We got the bid.
Which is
Can we
a
get
lot of
housing?
There's a whole,
Khalil, are you with us?
Did we send this to the people on the phone?
Khalil,
Did you get it, Sean?
did you get the email?
Khalil didn't get it.
well, we're just now looking at,
We're looking at page 4, the attachment that should have been sent to you.
We're looking at page
I don't know how to look, do two things at once here.
Well, are you near your computer? Can you
okay.
open up the email, and there should be an attachment.
Okay. Should probably leave the.
Completed but never published.
No,
You know,
no, you
when
don't
I
have to leave the meeting, leave the phone on. And go to the Municipal Comprehensive Land Use Plan Annual Report, which is part of the attachment.
Okay. How do I get the screen to go away? Just hit the X?
What screen do you need to go away?
I mean, in many ways,
Oh,
it
the
really is
broadcast
very
screen?
similar to what we just covered.
Yeah, the Zoom, yeah, you can just minimize it, just hit the minimize.
Maybe our town would be better off to.
Well, so one of the recommendations they had here was initiate an updating of commercial properties within the historic district. So, I don't even
Go beyond
know.
behind that.
There's not a completed or ongoing next to it, so I don't really know.
It's a multi-page document, Municipal Comprehensive Land Use Plan Annual Report. And we need you to go to page 4.
Or show an indication.
Oh my goodness. There's really nothing here even when you get into the big plan.
Oh, he only has the PowerPoint?
36.
Oh,
Okay.
There's a lot of. So maybe but this is one.
Get this before.
It needs addressed and spend our time looking at.
Yeah, okay, stay there, and I'll get you to the right place. Hang on.
I mean, really, if you're talking about
Go
reworking the
to
comp
page,
plan, this seems
no, it's
like
not
one that
numbered, but keep going
could be kind of
down,
rolled into
infrastructure
other
and
parts of the
transportation.
comp plan. I don't
That's
know.
where we are.
You know, you're kind of being redundant here.
With values of small town historic fabric.
I mean, one of the things.
We might be
maybe you can
encouraging,
put
but we're
here
not
is Drew just pointed, one of the recommendations was updating of commercial
Joe,
properties
did
in
you
the
find it,
historic
buddy?
district. The same, he's kind of pointing the same thing out in the marine commercial.
Community design, infrastructure, transportation, okay, there it is.
There we go,
Good.
that's what we're talking about now, buddy. Sorry you're having
so
such
as we,
trouble.
as we read each one of
Examine
these,
them, put it in writing, examine
it's
them.
really applicable to what we're doing there. If not, what kind of
Well,
changes
I
are
mean,
gonna be?
it's just
What-
odd to
make it
initiate
easy
an
for you.
updating commercial properties, and I don't even know.
We read it all and
What
then
is
we
that?
make a comment. Okay?
Well, my first comment is,
Do they put new HVAC, new businesses? I don't know what that,
it just varies, but that's just being picky.
Okay, the first one is on bicycle, though. Are we doing
Frankly,
enough
I'd
to
have a
support
question around
bicycling
that.
as a
Initially, you know what I
transportation
mean?
option in the
Yeah,
city,
what
or
does it
should
even
we do
mean?
less? What's
like, are we
what's your
looking to
read on it?
Does it
diversify the
mean-
types of businesses that are there?
Continue what the city.
Or does it mean just an inventory?
I think it's a good
Well, the one above it says inventory, but the last point,
I feel the same way.
so where in the city do we not have? Now, this is really interesting. This is
Work with
also
Sussex County officials,
contrary
DelDOT,
to something that's a present
DRBA,
goal.
property
So
owners,
as we
and
look at our
byways
community
committee to
design,
approve the
one of the
transportation
things that we're
gateways.
trying to do is pave less. So adding the curbs and sidewalks
Yeah, I'm not really
to
sure.
existing city streets,
Say it again, Joe.
you know, is contrary to the work like what we're doing in the subdivision. Right.
signage project as part of that.
But that's just, that's at the state level.
We just went into this with the subdivision,
Right.
was we actually.
So is there
even
something,
leaned
is there
towards
something that we're not
some
working on
narrower-
that should be changed?
narrower streets
Can you think
to
of?
create more pervious surface.
They may want to next to state park people too.
Right.
materials.
So what do you want me to?
And the other one they're talking about is the new road corridor master plan.
And we
haven't-
addressed,
I don't think that's been finalized.
you know, all of best management practices too,
Just
within
there
that.
was something, there's some progress. I don't
Yeah,
know
but
what
that's
So
happened.
maybe if we're
That's
adding
all I
curbs
know.
and
I
sidewalks,
don't know enough
require
about this.
Do you know,
curbs and sidewalks to be
More pervious.
made from pervious
we're working
materials.
through this, I don't know stuff. Question,
We don't know
question.
anything about this.
Is the corridor master plan, what's the status of
Environmentally
the
friendly
new road corridor master plan?
Designs.
Or using pervious materials to construct
And
sidewalks.
it's, who's it gonna go to, planning and zoning for the county?
They even use that like where appropriate or necessary.
We'll go to both, we'll go to both.
Oh, I see.
I can think how the curbs are designed, like
Oh, I see.
my little brother lives in Virginia Beach and they had these rolled curbs, but they went to a sharper point in the middle. And so they were using less concrete to construct the curbs. But also you can tell the gutter was more.
There's certainly no input on the
It
new
was well
road.
designed because if it got clogged there, we'd move on down to the next one. So just.
All right, go on to the next one, Joe, so we're gonna run out of time here.
Yeah, really.
Encourage right.
Activity, yes, well, that's nice, but local communities don't like more traffic going through their backyards.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
Right
we
now,
just don't have a lot
everybody
of
tries
time
to
to work
come in and
with.
say
We
that
got the,
they like the word interconnectivity. It doesn't work, so it's on paper, but it's not a reality. It's not happening.
Well, you may want to reconfigure this and say it's to improve evacuation options, okay?
Oh, well, that's one way of looking at it, yeah.
Yeah, just you change the wording to encouraging, road connections to improve evacuation routes.
Oh, okay.
All right, just rework that.
Yeah, okay, because it's not working the way it is.
I know, take a different action.
Yeah.
Try to read the minutes one.
Okay, here's the next one. All right, I'm up to the next one, Joe. Railroad right-of-way. Okay, your thoughts on that? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I heard the statement, but what's the content?
Yeah, well, it's the railroad right-of-way. It's basically saying that the mayor and city manager have met with the former
Oh, there
secretary.
is. 'Cause
Yeah,
one of
to
the things
address
that
their
it says
interference following the removal of the
transportation
railroad tracks.
improvements
Well,
is included
you know, what am I
here.
gonna say to that?
But there's
That's-
there's a whole section in the comp plan about
That's about
transportation, so a lot of it's
size,
just
you know?
creating redundancies. in the comp plan.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to say there.
It's a good thing,
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
Review.
All right, I'm with the next one. The next one, adding, read it.
The curbs and sidewalks on city streets.
See,
Yeah,
they're
that's-
talking about curbs and sidewalks over
And that's
there.
exactly what's happening on Savannah. They're getting ready to put sidewalks.
$1.7 million.
Yes,
But
big
the
money.
state's doing it, right?
Yes, it's happening. So I highly encourage that they put more streets. I mean, you gotta walk
It's
into the streets. The more they
there's
can-
the lobby of the
Exactly right.
School. All right, the next
museum,
one,
there's
the
a
next one,
basketball.
Joe, is you. The master's design of signage for historic roads.
Oh, yeah, that's the one you were just talking about. Yes.
Design plan. Design plan.
Yeah, because,
Design plan.
integrate, yeah, it's,
Yeah, thank you, Wayfinder, that's it.
system or something.
Yeah, I remember that, Wayfinder. Thank
a lot of
you.
redundancies. You're talking about historic,
All right,
cultural.
the next one is
and then you're
installation of
adding
parking
in
meters.
transportation issues.
So that's working, both those things are happening.
Yes, it is. Wait, the
So-
next one.
And approaching Del Dot to
But
study
if we're gonna talk
feasibility
about
of transportation
transportation
improvement,
improvement,
TI.
again, it's in a section, it's like,
Is this
there I would
working
talk more
right?
about, like,
Stuff behind it? I didn't know that. Behind the
Carolyn,
bench.
Carolyn.
Oh, okay.
So the
idea
TID is
that
done, isn't
shuttling
it?
these people around rather than like, where can we create
But I don't know that it includes the city. There is one, but I
Yeah,
don't know.
because they're
if
not
it
all
includes the
young,
city.
and they can't all use the bike
And
trail.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't
And
know
at
if
nighttime-
Revisiting the idea
It
of a
is
parking
done.
garage somewhere, because there, you have a paved surface, what's the difference?
And the next one is the
Having
Hemlock
three,
and TID.
potentially 3 levels.
I agree with that,
You
but
can even free up existing parking areas and turn them back over to green space, maybe.
you know, but especially when you're talking about with all the homes that are coming in on the road.
God bless.
Anne Marie,
I don't know.
we have 2 more fact questions, please.
Yeah, that's
2
what
more
the,
fact questions for you.
Look at waterfront preserve.
We don't know about this one.
What's the status of the effort? Was there an effort made for the city?
Oh, yeah, I supported that.
Started to discuss it, but there was too much land, too little land that wasn't already.
Oh,
So
okay.
is this, so this
So there's
became
no-
the
I had a,
east and west?
Right.
one
Well,
more
and that's on the,
documented,
that's on the west side.
history. It was
But
good
there's
that I
also
didn't
an
have
east side mentioned.
to speak on that one. And now the,
So it's just, it's 5 points in west.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, thank you.
on Gary's land.
And right, sorry,
And we have given you
But
wireless.
that is a good,
oh, yeah,
so I'm gonna look more at this.
Joe, is there anything else you want to add to this?
read the last one.
It's environmental protection, Canary Creek watershed.
Continue, if it hasn't been accomplished yet, just keep it on the burner.
You got it.
So
You
where
got
is
it.
transportation? I think we absolutely have to look at that.
Okay, Joe.
Next question, there's a couple leading
Okay, we've raised the bridge, that's ongoing.
I
Oh,
don't,
just
Really
with
good
the,
after.
we really, we didn't have much meat
Anne Marie's worked with them before.
to work
Yeah.
with, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so we're looking through other areas.
Well, everybody seems to know.
The one that like that's in River, I wasn't sure.
No.
Oh, no.
And I think with this one, if you're talking about redoing the plan, you know, revising the plan, one thing we're
Okay,
saying
hold
here,
tight. You got that?
maybe
You
some
got
things you
anything
just
else you wanna?
get rid of as an item because they're already addressed in other parts, you know, it becomes, that's exactly what you said here, it's just, why do you,
Which one?
yeah.
Interconnectivity, he wants to say.
And we were getting too narrow. This was one of the things in the subdivision.
We're ready for open discussion.
Yeah, exactly.
We can take it anytime. We're ready to, we're
Redundancy.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
areas that just weren't relevant to
We
that
got no
section.
novices over here. All right. Okay.
Okay, it's the only two things I got, improved evacuation.
And,
versus
you know, this one, I don't know how many with the Canary Creek watershed.
And moving that in all.
We need to buy the Ritter
Exception
farm.
of the TIDs to Route 1 around the city.
Yeah, right.
That's what
Everything
we
else
need
seems
to
to be
do.
where it needs to
Go.
be. Yes, totally agree.
Yeah, we're getting rid of this too.
Oh, no.
And then going up to Chester, County, Pennsylvania, and seeing
Yeah.
people get up there.
Exactly where you are, Turkey. You're on the phone, right?
To give money to
Yeah.
buy land.
We believe it
As
includes.
Oh, gosh.
As the
And Joe, we're
culture.
even including you. Come on.
People are so generous in so many other ways, yet
Joe hit Joey's hand. A minority opinion.
that one seems to be falling short.
Oh, I know. I know.
Which is good for
We
us. We
want
like
to
that, Joe.
preserve
You
the
gotta be what you gotta be.
Canary Creek
I just
watershed.
filed my first dissenting
That's the-
opinion on another commission I serve on, where I was
That's the-
outvoted
that's what
4-1
butts-
on whether or
that's
not
what's
to allow
contiguous
this
to
appeal to go
the
forward. And
That's where
I
the
felt so
stem
compelled
cell
that I decided not only to vote against the majority and against their denial of the appeal, that I wrote a 3-page opinion,
It's
which
waterfront
they've never had
reserve.
before. They were like,
between
"Can we
Savannah
do that?" I
Road
said,
and
well, I'm
New
damn well gonna do it. 'cause
Yeah,
I
it
think they're
backs
wrong."
up to,
In both the law
to
and
Hubby
facts.
Creek.
Say,
This
put
case.
your mouth.
Yeah, well, I'm sure, so
Where
it's,
the
I get a
neighborhood's
little
Hubby
deeper.
Creek, like Quail Trail,
You're a lawyer, all I
like
do
back
is
in
vote
there.
yea or nay.
If you just drive to the end, you can see the one
In
end
this
from
instance,
Marshy.
they
You
really
drive
good.
to the end, and then the
Get
other,
a life sentence
furthest out one is
because
the
they're
Ritter
not
Farm,
legally life sentence,
where
but
you
they
drive to the
barred
gate,
from
you see the
all
ponds
gaming
and.
facilities in the state of Delaware. because
So
of
that,
an
and then on
ordinance
the other
that
side, that
which
abuts to all that
pled
construction
guilty,
that's
paid
going up
restitution.
on
Wait a minute, you pay
Orchard Road.
restitution?
Because they really good what they tried to put in the shopping center, and it was struck
Screw
down,
with the gaming
and that'll come back.
system in any way, shape, or form. You're barred
Oh,
for
it'll
life.
come
That's
back.
not what the
Sure.
statute says,
Oh,
according to me.
It always comes
It's not
back.
a one and done, it's not forever. In fact, there is an appeal possible. It's only possible because we can rescind the barring that's given by the director of the law. So as the chair of the commission.
No, it's
held
never
the
enough.
hearing,
It's-
held the hearing.
it's never a final.
Commissioners agree there were exceptional circumstances here. The guy, it's 6 years ago, the guy has been great since, no other encounters with the law.
The watershed's
He had an accident, he got
back in play
opioid
again.
addicted, he's been in treatment for 5 years, he's been clean for 3 years, you know, he's really turned something. But he wants to get a full-time job. He can't get a job at a racetrack.
Because-
Because of his farm. So,
Well, then what the hell did it matter if we paid restitution? He's a condemned man.
he confessed, and I said, this is crazy.
Yeah, he's condemned man.
That's right. And we're gonna have Right, so we're gonna have to support him because he can't get a job.
Yeah, how about that?
I mean, that's bad.
No, that is not like, it is.
I usually try to follow plus.
It's like those states now, the Republican governors are now paying people not to get vaccinated instead of incentivizing them to get vaccinated, because they're gonna extend unemployment benefits to those people who lose their job because they're not vaccinated. So they're incentivizing not getting vaccinated. And yet they're
Okay.
complaining that their unemployment is.
We're going
Yeah, but
to,
see, that's.
we'll go back into plenary session. I think your mics are coming on. And I'm gonna start over here. I hope that doesn't confuse anybody, but there you go. So this is redevelopment strategies, all righty?
Need your bigger glasses?
All right, redevelopment strategies. All right, so this is, what's that, marine?
Commercial district.
Marine commercial, corner Savannah / Cape Henlopen. Need to think about beach vendors, other location for restroom facilities, ongoing discussion on annexation high school, Savannah Road potential. Is that residential becoming commercial? Car lot on Savannah Road, the old gas station, the Army Reserves, this is then another bullet, Army Reserve Center, Warrington Farm, Mr. P's, options, and then Cedar extended across Savannah. Fairly specific, but you know, you all know your Lewis geography, right? Any other thoughts on redevelopment
I'm
strategies?
gonna add Citizens Bank in there.
The Citizens Bank is privately owned and.
I know, but I would still add it in there. There's something to think about.
Yeah, we could put.
It may be for
There is
sale,
hope.
there may be lots of issues. You say no.
They're not gonna sell.
No.
It is, it's a bullet, but it goes on. Is that
Yeah,
good?
we can say, we can add Citizens Bank.
Done.
I think what we were talking about on Savannah Road was the corridor between where the trail crosses and you come up past up to Drake Knoll. That,
Yes.
both sides of that road with the car lot and the gas station and all of that.
And the buildings
We've seen with
behind.
the microbrewery that's going in there and the office building that's already there. We've seen kind of a repurposing of that area, which is really.
Cool,
not-
good,
Which has really not been heavily used in today's standards.
done. Other thoughts?
We have that acreage right across that's now combined, the 3 houses and whatever, 13 acres that are now for sale too.
Oh, yeah, right across the
Well,
trail.
that's in there. That's the Warrington Farm.
Oh, that's the one farm, okay.
Good,
Oh, that's what you call it.
yes.
Did you say one of the goals was Cedar and Savannah, where Cedar would be pushed? Is that what I heard?
Cedar,
There's a paper street on the, when you, if
On
you
the
get
other
to the
side
dead
of
end
it.
of Cedar Street, between Two Dip and the house,
Yeah.
that is a paper street.
Right, and that's what, and you're suggesting that.
I think we should, it's a possible redevelopment strategy. Could it be, would you want to turn it into pervious parking? Would you want to leave it as it is? It's fallow
Yeah, that's right, I
land.
know.
I just want to make sure
Yeah,
I understand.
I think that's where your floating pickleball court could go.
You keep trying with this.
All right. Any thoughts? Good, you good with that one? Good? Good? All right, excellent, very good. Thank you.
Next, we have community design plan. You might have to help me, there's some scribbles here. This is the brainstorming process. Okay, so review eliminating community design as a category and integrate design planning into other areas. This is redundant, and that's why the recommendation's being made that this is being covered in the other policy areas.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to the historic district and guidelines, and it talks about transportation improvements, et cetera, which are really areas that
And
are
everything
covered in
else.
other parts of the comp plan. The one curious one, it did say in the bullet point, initiate an updating of commercial properties within the historic district. I guess that one's on you, Ted.
I'm not sure why it's on me.
I don't know. I don't really know what, I mean, what is it, does anyone know like what that mean, or they bring them up to date?
I don't
Is it
know.
like?
Well, I think that was a concern. I think at the time that plan was developed 5 years ago, what has now become a realtor office next door to the former buttery, and
Okay.
Schooner
Oh, right.
Inn, having been redeveloped, those properties were not really in the fold yet. Also, there were some other properties that, had not quite come up to current usage.
Okay.
There's been a significant, I mean, if you think about
the rebuild of striper bikes, you think about the rebuild of Kindle, all of that was kind of, so it's basically older information that was related to what's there.
Okay.
So I guess I have a question on the elimination of it now that I'm thinking about it. Is this an opportunity to ensure that there is an integration of thought between transportation, historic, environmental, that you put down that is to be an integrated process rather than silos of particular issues?
Yeah, and I
They do all.
And it should be that way. It just seems an odd placement in the comp plan to have it where if
I
it
didn't know if
is,
that,
yeah.
that's a place that it just states the intent, that there needs to be holistic
Yeah.
look. And when you talk about a master plan, it's not just a single particular issue, that it integrates some of the other areas. So that's just, an opportunity that maybe this could get at.
I mean, it is a comprehensive plan,
Yeah,
so it should be integrated. I mean, it should not be, silos that we look at uniquely and without regard to what they're attached to or what's around them. And it's not just commercial, it's not just residential. We have now a large mix of both, and we have very limited properties left. When you think about, we've got, I don't know if you put on the redevelopment, the Old Dairy, is that on your list?
oh, right.
It's already being developed.
I understand, but that's still in process, it's not been approved yet, right?
Right. Still in process.
Yeah, it is.
We could add that.
But if you look at it from the perspective of what Drew just said, then we're not achieving it. We're kind of doing the opposite and failing, because if we're focusing on,
Infrastructure and transportation.
the community character and community design, Lewis valuing its small town and historic fabric, are we preserving that or are we losing it? And so I don't think this one alone gives any guidance to the other areas. I think that it is a big idea, which it should be, and I understand that in a comp plan, but these should be integrated into other areas. And we even, when we talked about the cultural and historic resources, suggested that we looked back at preserving historic buildings throughout the town. Isn't that, an area of redundancy?
What I did, I had a little sidebar with Anne Marie, who, as I understand it, used to work for the Office of State Planning Coordination. And you have mandatory elements in your comp plan, of which that is one. All of these are mandatory, if you will, elements. But they can be, you can leave it out of your plan if explained as to why you're doing so. So exactly to what you're talking about, that we have put design elements in the other components of our comprehensive plan, and that's where you can find them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and I think Anne Marie, and Janelle, both of you are the planning folks, but you're okay with that, you can work with that and have your contractor do the scope. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, I think one thing that isn't mentioned is, you want to talk about affordable housing in any way?
That's in a different section though, right? Yes, I want to talk about it very much.
I know it's the next round, but it talks about community design. You may even put some kind of lip service or some kind of placeholder into the idea of community design, that you incorporate something like that. Okay.
Good point. All right, good for this one? All right, next one is infrastructure and transportation plan. 2 bullets. Improve the evacuation routes versus interconnectivity, and then move ahead on all bulleted items, except that is the TID, east of Route 1, or in the city.
And the first one is the idea that Joe had, and since he's on the phone, I'll explain it. Instead of talking about interconnectivity, which gets everybody's blood boiling, talk about improving evacuation routes, which is a euphemism for interconnectivity to some of the developments that are not wanting to have traffic visit their front yard. So he's simply suggesting that we use a different terminology to explain the necessity for interconnectivity, which is to improve the evacuation route, since we have such limited resources for that at the moment.
And so much objection to interconnectivity.
John, good?
Okay.
Is there, I think in various meetings, et cetera, I've heard people in the public raising questions about, is there a need to have a shuttle service, a, you know, kind of jitney or pedicabs, I mean, a whole kind of, you know, fill in the blank in terms of alternative modes of transportation. Is that something that we should be putting on here as something that we need to at least think about and discuss in terms of the comp plan?
So explore alternative transportation modes.
The other thing that was brought up to Tim and I recently in the Bike and Pedestrian Committee is the increase in these e-bikes. And they see that as something that will continue to increase as an alternative mode of transportation.
Yeah, that's cool. Those
Yeah.
are very cool.
So just to remind everybody, the Planning Commission did a field trip to Rock Hall to look at their jitney service and other opportunities to integrate the Marine District to the downtown area and to provide evening transportation for people at a nominal expense if they decided to party and couldn't drive or shouldn't drive home. I would also put on the record, if I may, that Colonial Beach has taken another tactic which has worked exceptionally well in Colonial Beach, Virginia, and that is golf carts. It improves the parking, it improves transportation options, and it created some new businesses, but it seems to be working exceptionally well in Colonial Beach, and we are a beach community, so golf carts might be another option we should consider.
Well, golf carts are already here in terms of privately owned ones.
Right.
That come into downtown, but you're thinking of a commercial venture offering.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking of having more rental or sale and having more authorization to use them, incentivizing parking.
I
You
think-
can get 3 of those in two parking spaces easily. You know, there's lots of things like that.
I think Carol Ann could probably talk to us about the requirements for a golf cart being on the road, because you have to have lights and you have to have
Right, I
lights.
understand. But maybe we can do something about that. I mean, those of you who are
Depending on the
golfers.
roadway that you're talking about.
Right. Those of you who are golfers, we're not talking about your errant shots that you went after in your golf cart, but I think there are ways that we can explore that as an option.
I think that's a great idea, and I have seen it in some other historic towns. Vernon Beach, Florida is one of them too.
They're in several places in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might
And
require you to limit some of the traffic on those roads.
that develop
Right.
parking because it's
Yeah.
a lot less use of space.
It could be introducing problems with
It could
people
be.
with golf
Could be.
carts in the road. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's two sides to that.
And how far, it would have to obviously, I think, be a certain radius that we don't want people coming from, 2 miles outside
Yeah.
of town, I don't think, with a
I know
golf
people
cart.
come from Gills Neck Road housing projects that come
Yeah.
in golf carts.
Yeah, and that's unsafe on Gills
Yeah,
Neck.
yeah,
Transportation modes, that
exactly.
seems to
It'll
be
cover
the
That's,
Right.
that's a good
Yeah.
way of putting it.
Yeah.
Then you have your discussion later on.
Right,
So
exactly.
you're looking at
That's what
looking at
we-
ways to solve future problems. So, excellent. Environmental protection plan. Protect wellhead any way we can. Disconnect public services from annexation. Does everybody, I'm unsure what that would.
There's too much public service.
I think it's separate them. So that
Separate,
they're-
yeah.
Right now, we're requiring annexation in order to get sewer and water.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
That was
yeah.
Andrew's point.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
what you mean.
yeah.
Just
Separate the
the
two.
And I guess in our discussion, it relates in part to wellhead protection in that if you have septic areas around it, but we could get those folks on
On
BPW
public
service.
public
that's where we
services.
implementation of Cedar Street flood should be in comp plan.
A flood study,
Flood
sorry.
study should be in the comp plan. Educational sessions have not been effective, so we need to work on improving educational sessions. What has been studied needs to be implemented into the code. So whatever the conclusions of the studies now need to get to their next step in their journey. This is a big topic and requires more focus in the comp plan, which is the code changes. Links with other agencies, links with the state, et cetera. So you're right, to be able to continue forward with those changes is no small thing, but that is actually how you're going to make the things come to fruition.
Yeah.
So, thoughts, additions?
Could I jump in with something I realized? I hate to be this person, but when we were talking about infrastructure and transportation, on the back of that in the comp plan is the preservation of trees. And I would like to just say once again that the idea of a tree ordinance seems to float around and never come to fruition, and we need it.
Here.
So I'm sorry I missed that when you guys were on there, but I didn't actually see how it even fit well into the infrastructure and transportation section.
Yeah. I know, yeah.
So I was like, wait a second.
You know, it wasn't in there.
But yes, tree ordinance, we need it, we need
I'm
it.
with you.
It's on page 35 of the comp plan. Page 35 of the comp plan.
Yeah.
On the environmental protection plan, I agree with the trees being important. I think we need to take, I would go one step beyond what you recommended. We need to get some answers in the code to some of these very difficult issues, and they're not always politically saleable to everybody in the community. But we've got to have some bright lines in the code about development, about utilization, protection of resiliency, about other things. And I really think, while the comp plan is not going to do that, I think we need to encourage you all who are mayor and city council to have some definitive decisions made that we will base the future on, because we can't leave this to, in my opinion, a range of options that people would pick and choose as they wish, whether they get approved or not, whether they go through the hoops to get stuff done. I just think we need to be sharper in some of those decisions and guidance for everybody. We've got to think about the future, not about yesterday. And I don't think, contrary to what some of our fellow citizens keep saying, I don't think this involves a taking. I don't think that's where this rises to that level. We have to do it, though, for the collective good, which is why I think it has to be citywide, not just on specific communities when we make some of these decisions.
Well, let me say that an example of something like that was the city did the Cedar Street flood study, which hasn't been mentioned since.
It's not done.
Well, yeah, well, it ought to be done, because you've done the flood work, you got to do a little bit of civil engineering, and then it ought to be on the budget. It ought to be in the capital budget now.
What are you asking for?
I mean,
It's not that simple. Well, it's not that simple to do, Bob.
I disagree.
The project scope, the data is collected. They need to finish the study and do the recommendations, and I expect it'll be out shortly, early in 2022. But it's not that it's dropped off the radar, it's just not complete.
Okay, but Bob made this point on another occasion that I think it's important to remember. There are a number of things like the Cedar Street study, and there are some other ones that are ongoing. It would be good to have some recordation of those in a status report that either gives to mayor and city council or to the planning commission or to the citizens, so we know where things are as they're work in process, because we don't know always all the stuff that the city has got going in the various components. And I think we suffer from the fact that we're wishing for more, and some of it's already being done or is in process. So again, I would renew my suggestion previously that we get some kind of status report on all of these matters that's distributed to mayor and city council, at least at your meetings, and or the planning commission in addition. But I think that would be helpful to educate all of us as to what all is going on and what the time frame is and what the scope is.
All right, done. Good conversation. It is. Bright lines, studies on time, tracking mechanisms, everything you need to be an effective city council. Because you do. That environmental protection it's a lot. I think that's that one on the bullet notes. Now, I have to ask you, you're okay? Are you working, are your groups okay? Or do you literally despise the person that you're working with and you want to move?
Vote me out. Are we on recording?
I'm just checking in here because I haven't.
Is it time for you to go home, Bill, or what?
Caroline and I, we never turn off our cars on gigs like this. We keep them running.
When the sun goes down, goodbye.
Okay.
All right, are we ready to go? This is the third round.
Yeah,
We're all in good shape, good. All right, so here we go. You're gonna do housing? All right.
Drew and Carolyn, economic development. You guys are future land use plan.
Well, we're gonna number all the bullets.
And lastly, you have.
Joe, did you find it in the outline, economic development plan?
Yeah, process are right.
Stated policies and recommendations, economic development.
Are you still with us,
policy
Khalil?
recommendations, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Page 6.
Okay, great, thank you.
Find it.
So we drew the lot culture
Start at the beginning. How far back?
on page
Oh,
7.
okay.
Okay?
We're recommending development.
So, now before you get started, this is a bonus round. This is a bonus round. So if you get done early, you can pick up on that book, which is areas of concern. All right?
Oh, I thought it was gonna be a cocktail or something. What are you talking about?
Oh, existing
Well,
land.
this workforce housing thing out here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm trying to go
On
in.
Savannah Road.
Really?
I'm bad, I should be
There's
looking at
some
this first. and I'm looking
agency
at
All right,
this.
Joe, you
that
get
does,
This is land use, I've got in my
Okay,
own.
let's
basically finances. It's a state
So page 7
connected
here.
thing, and they somehow
That was the Diamond
finance.
State Land Trust that worked with them on doing the financing.
Yeah, and they basically have a way of bringing down the
So let's just,
entry.
The second bullet.
So,
I'm not-
yeah.
I don't know
So-
how they control the other end of it.
Wait, I didn't get there.
They get a job at the hospital, I work here, and I get promoted 3 times, and now I sell it.
I don't know.
Do they get something out of it, or
Is there such a
can
thing?
I just mark it up to?
I think that horse is
I
out
can't
of
answer
already.
I can get Anthony to read
It's more
it.
important to get people off of
Good, well, I don't know,
Diamond
is there a
State
regional
Act,
that we
tourism plan that you know
encumber
of, Jim?
DPW's ability to do that by requiring annexation. We can come up with other ways to maybe attract people in and want to annex rather than using a stick of hooking up the sewer versus dumping it into a septic field. So,
Dutchman's
maybe, you know, I don't, okay, so let's really look at what's.
Where do you do
I
it?
agree with you. I honestly, I happen to live on Harbor Beach, and the street behind me, which I think people don't realize, are Hornkill.
there's like 8 properties that are on the
It's
septic.
half in the city and it's not. And,
The only other place I know you could do it,
and, you know, one of those homes just turned hands, or, yeah, was just sold, and.
yeah, and Fancy Pants is putting in
They sell some of it,
We know that.
to make sure that you.
What else should we add here?
You could encourage
But
apartment
we need to find out whether it really is.
conversion.
Is it truly a tourism thing or is it just in writing? Well, I gotta, I can't get anybody's attention, but.
And people are living
Consider,
there, and it's existing.
and consider
I
apartment.
mean, I think you just simply write a bullet point, it just is.
Should mention the Chamber of Commerce.
Well, I just wanna find out if there
Sure, I'll-
is. Is there such
Mine
a thing
wasn't
as
that
this?
great, so I didn't.
I didn't think so. I never heard of anything like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think moving.
Yeah, because as it
Well,
is, we can't
I
park the
mean, you
cars
can
with that.
also, I mean, I would rather,
So would
if
that
you
be
get over
called?
here to Hulling Cove,
It's just
So
reasonable.
we've included the
those
city
are, I
adopting
think,
an
affordable. And there's some of them that are really nice. I've been in them. And then
Yeah, that's
there's
just
the
a
other
tricky word.
sort of yellowish building that
You know that, right?
probably
Okay,
meets the needs.
My mind,
Isn't nearly as attractive.
and it's for the time, but I would put across through this one too,
This
yes.
year,
Welcoming.
not the annexation.
Joe, did you hear
So
what
we're
he said?
talking about existing
I
land use.
did, but
And
I'll
I think
repeat it.
communities such as.
I wanted to make sure you
But if
guys
you look
are.
at it here, wait, am I in the right
Mobility,
section?
that's biking, you wanna say cycling, you wanna say kayaking too.
Well, the only other place to
When I'm
do it
talking
would
about
be
in the
over here behind the
comprehensive
school.
plan,
No, we just deleted, we just deleted the whole line.
State
which I,
Yeah. All right, we're down at the bottom. But the state Southern Anchor, the state's delineation initiative.
And you're outside.
it would be existing land use
That
as
is what it
well,
is.
would be future land use plan, right?
What it means.
Would be our correlation.
No, that's a matter of intent, you know.
I don't
to get
see.
So the land use,
the owner of that property to
Do we see anything we should add to this?
Well, he added work with the Chamber of Commerce,
I don't understand this.
and I
This
added
is
include the
open,
Marine
it's up to-
Commercial District.
Oh, yeah, you did.
When I look at the comp plan, this is what I'm seeing here.
But that's,
Only
Yeah.
use
I'm
that
with
you
you.
discussed here and then exploring development opportunities.
Okay, did you hear what
Do they
One
use it
more,
though?
I'm in the
I
wrong
mean, I've
place.
never seen a car. They do?
And just keep the two.
I must go on weekends. All right, take it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, good.
Okay.
The whole area.
All right, I'm glad it's being used.
Position on the general, okay, future land use map. Okay, gotcha. So,
Got that right.
I mean, I think
Okay,
that
let me
makes
take
it
my
nice. You know, I mean, if you're talking about housing, it's not gonna be.
that's all right.
shelter,
Just
and
that.
It's clean, it's everything, yeah. I mean, I
Well,
think they
that's
updated
fine.
them not that long ago.
Okay.
I did have
But,
circled
you know,
just through my
not to
notes when I,
Spa standards, you know.
They could be a little more dense,
Yeah.
you know, okay. But I didn't even know they were used.
Oh, yeah, they're all.
I actually,
there is,
I actually
and we
think
have
that
it in here.
shows a great deal of,
The future land use maps, did they print them? I have them on my computer.
lower economic level, modest housing set, and for them not to be so packed in that everything around
You,
their lives.
except it doesn't.
Yeah.
It does, but it doesn't, because we were just told by Glenn that,
Around them, I think
that saying that this doesn't,
I think it's good.
this isn't, well,
I think Helen Cove is very nice, and,
No, it's the
but
22
the other part of it is less nice. But if you had a place to put,
and this is what has
80 more
happened, but
units
it's
of
just
Helen Cove
whether or not, I
somewhere.
guess, some of these things will hold up in a court of law.
but I don't know where that space
As
would be.
when the planning
So are
commission or
you
the,
suggesting?
you know, the council says no to
Would you suggest, are you suggesting that,
to an application,
density
some of the things that we're saying,
more flexible to be able
like, may not hold the force of law, is what Glenn is counseling us.
modest affordable housing? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not, no, because I don't even like those two code sections, RX8 and whatever they are.
Can we address
AX-res and so on. I don't like them.
acceptance?
And,
We do need to get that done.
and, you know, I think your point is, hey, it's a lot of old people, and it's a lot of retirees, and it's a lot of rich people, and how do you do that? Is sort of the fundamental question.
When it rarely snows, when it snows
Is sort of the
loud,
fundamental question.
they drive down
Maybe
with
it
the
comes
plow,
out of
and then
what
they stop
the
and
mayor was
they're out.
talking about,
Yeah.
find out
Can
where
I
you
steal
do
this
have
back, because I want to
space,
refer to this one again, that's okay.
put in something.
Yeah, we don't
that
have that much,
looks like Helen Cove, or looks like
so the
this
annexation
graduate housing.
is not ours, right?
And I'm speaking to you as a
So the future land,
just as a resident.
yeah, for the policy for public and private uses of land.
Now, a park,
We don't have the future land use maps in front of us, unfortunately. And we don't have those. You have,
It's not, it's not.
Or do you,
how do you
do
accomplish
you?
This one's showing annexation areas.
Where the university has done this on their own land, right? Yeah, could you get?
The one thing that I, concerns Tim and I greatly is because the way that Lewis is set in, we don't have, there's not a lot of, there's commercial in the sense that you can get something to eat and you can, find a real estate agent, but you can't, there's no hardware store, there's, Lloyd's is really the only kind of place where you can get staples, in a sense, the things that you need. So,
Is there a way to get
in terms of future land use, is exploring more development of things that can sustain us, such as
rental units?
community,
workforce housing,
that serve basic needs in the community, that serve,
discuss Michelle and his council.
yeah, redevelopment of, what have we got? We've got, well, already purchased Jay's house.
Being able to buy.
Maybe was talking about buying a whole
series of.
Right.
But we have the Schley, we have some stuff over
Yeah.
Schley Avenue
Yeah,
that provide basic,
yeah.
basic needs and
that
services.
They can't do that because of the way it's set up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
And as a result, we have what we have. We're gonna have
Oh, I think that goes without saying, but, and there's no space for that.
The other
And
place
they've got
that
that
is
up on the
likely to
highway,
come
but
up
it'd
at
be really
some
nice
point is the
to
Army
be able to
Reserve
go.
place over there. I mean,
Yeah.
And, yeah, and I can,
Yeah, I don't see that ever coming. I think they're,
many entities already
yeah,
on that property,
and it-
including the city is. We're very interested in.
well, I mean, would you, just as a
which is, more expensive and harder to get
straw
to
poll,
than
would
Home
you
Depot.
rather have
Or Lowe's.
another, what's, debris circle or whatever that is in there? Or would you
Yeah,
rather
but
have,
preserving the,
Holling Cove? And I think most people in Lowe's and all the developers would rather have
so this is what has been done, is the charter.
Sure. Right.
But I do think that exploring the redevelopment opportunities consistent with the changing needs of the city. Well, what are the changing needs of the city? We're gonna talk about more senior housing, that,
Well, that's why I think something like this is, as we get kind of set off with all these other developments along Cedar Road, it's harder to get out to, grocery stores and hardware stores.
right, like, do we need more
Basic
brewers?
needs.
Do we need, a vet? Do we need more brewers, or do we need, small
Excuse me.
shopping centers? We have, a shopping center that kind of has limited use, and people are buying that spot up.
But anyway, that is a great example of affordable housing.
It's basically, when you cross over the canal bridge, the area that's to the left is, all those sort of mixed use areas.
It's Anglos Road, and then
I
it's
know,
also,
it's
isn't it,
There's
the
some,
area along
Beacon,
Savannah?
yeah, like
I've been
Beacon
in there.
through where the Daily Mart is.
nice.
How about like down by the Dairy Queen where they're
That's
residents?
not,
like either
if we
those
asked for,
places
if
that
he was
talk
known
about
for his rezoning, like, would you
track
want to be?
need more city services than
Like, he was happy to be
anywhere
there.
else.
So commercial, which was reserved
Right.
It's
for.
not
Dairy Queen is general commercial,
I
so
think
is
you're
the
right. If
lot
you
right
give
across the street, is general commercial.
some space and you don't remind them they're poor all the
Yeah.
time, you do better. A nice place.
Yeah,
a
so
nice
I
front,
think
a nice
looking
back,
at redevelopment opportunities,
decent neighbors and
finding places that you can have changing needs of the city to have basic,
and the only other place that
beyond Lloyd's and Rite Aid.
on,
What do we call this?
and that's going away one trailer at a time and they build something.
Couple more minutes. You guys are done.
Yeah, that's
In the city, we call them bodegas, but I think that's,
unusual.
Yeah, that
the
was.
regional term.
Yeah, I think that is.
Common,
I lived in West Philly, we had a lot of those too.
it's like called general goods,
Yeah, general goods.
Well, you know where else there is the old, how about the old well,
But
old
shopping
well
is geared
too,
towards daily living, daily
along the
living,
highway?
not just tourism
Tell me
shopping.
where you're talking
yeah,
about.
that's
Bob.
like basic needs and daily.
So, I used to buy my milk and dairy.
Where I'm staying
I love just going in.
Gill's Neck,
Yeah,
Gill's Neck and the canal,
right.
I don't go out to
highway,
one.
John Jameson.
Do not.
And there's a big field right here. And then the public works are right here.
That'll do it.
And Schley Avenue is the other side with some houses. I think that's the old well field.
I thought the old well field was over.
Like I would think like, it'd be great to have a
town is
fishmonger or a butcher or something.
Well, supposedly there
Okay,
was going to
this
be
is a
one.
bridge, the Fender Bridge,
People also
right?
go up to the
Okay,
And there's a big field right
that's
there.
Robert Kennedy's property.
Yeah.
He owns
What would you do or
The brush factory.
the brush
Yeah,
factory?
we go there. It's good quality stuff.
No, I mean,
It's not Dunbar.
Right now, he's
Oh,
holding
yeah,
on
good,
to
Yeah.
it's good.
I
And they're
think
really
it's
nice
city
people,
land,
but they're from the
It's not
MBTA,
city
so,
okay.
you know, Pennsylvania Farmers
Local-ish,
Market.
yeah.
Right.
That's
what
one
should-
of the last.
And
What should
not
the city
organic
do
from
Did you ever
to keep
get,
the boxes.
green
I
It's
never-
either gonna
I
be
did- I
They
did-
used to put together some good stuff. They would basically go to the
Subdivision.
Washington Farmers Market and put together, so like on a Thursday night, you'd put in your order with them. And then like on Monday, they'd come by.
I do
How
that
do we
with
not
houses. I
Sure.
order
How do we keep it? Or maybe it should be open space.
And I go up to Town Farms, and buy
What do you want it
there,
to
especially during the
I mean,
pandemic.
what's that zone right now? That's
There.
It's not R8, I know that.
Which are in Milton,
I don't know. It's probably,
but
I don't know what it is.
in addition to
Yeah,
and I go like once a month up on the highway and I can.
For this purpose, maybe the question is,
yeah,
where would
exactly.
you put it?
Yeah, I can't do those people.
I don't get fish there, but you know, they do have, when you first walk in, there's a cooler. It's got good crab meat and oysters in there. But you're right, the fish otherwise is just packaged. The beef is good, and their produce is usually really good. And the other thing, if you see Lenny in there and you don't, you say like, hey, do you ever consider getting this or that? You'll come in the next week and he'll have it there. It's one to try it.
Yeah, I definitely, I buy the majority of my fish.
Is the bird,
Oh, well, then you gotta be there, you gotta put it for small.
But,
Or should we just be what we are, a natural
so, yeah, I think that is, but looking at,
old folks and families.
I don't have any issue.
That handles a lot of tourists.
I think the changing needs though is, the changing needs is we have a lot of elderly people in this community who don't need to be driving up on the highway with the increased traffic. And they need to be able to buy more in town, where we come,
Targets more
you
than
know, like the big cities where during COVID, where everyone's isolated and ordering their life off Amazon. And I don't want to become that.
Yeah, I think it's a.
What about the encouragement of like, you know, this was in the conference, I think before, of like the idea that, you know, an elder in an aging population could have like people living in like in-law housing situations, you know, like granny flats.
Ready?
Is that a good use of our resources?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna start over here with housing,
I'm like,
with the great penmanship.
I'm still here, yes.
good for you.
Night goes on.
I'm running now, I'm still here.
We can get you, we can put
Okay,
names.
the first comment, affordable housing is limited and challenging to preserve given market forces.
This is an area to address that.
Should we allow, encourage, consider accessory living units, apartments above commercial units, large businesses to create rental units preserved for low rent worker housing? So some aspects of dealing with affordable housing. Not a lot of land left to use for affordable housing. How do we incentivize creating low-cost housing when more money is made from other types of development? Should a small city like Lewis take on the burden of creating affordable housing? Very thought-provoking. Challenges that many places are facing here in Delaware. Very big issue. Any comments?
One of the other solutions that other districts have employed is the school district subsidizes teacher rentals in exchange for a commitment to stay for a period of time. I think we need to explore some of those kinds of relationships that we don't have in place in Lewis. We have 4 schools very close to us, 2 in the city limits, 1 we'd like in the city limits, but I think we should get the school board, in conjunction with the school board, work to consider some alternatives. It also may be applicable with BB, because they're always looking for staff. There may be ways to get more of those kind of institutions involved in subsidizing in exchange for a continuum of service, rents or otherwise.
Some kind of stipend to help
Right.
offset the cost.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about was UD's housing for graduate students. And, I mean, they own that land, they've built that housing, they set the rate, no, they don't?
Built by the Navy.
Pardon?
It was built by the Navy.
It was built by the, okay, but they own it now?
Yeah.
Okay, But, so they have complete control, though, over the rental, the rent they'll charge. And the question was whether there was space anywhere for BB to be able to do that, because we know that they, at one point, had expressed some interest in buying units at Dutchman's Harvest. And because the concern was, how do you keep it affordable over time? And when it's owned by a business that has a self-interest in having workers nearby, there's a built-in incentive to maintain those rents at a level and the housing at a level that's acceptable.
Yeah, that's the key.
Especially if they're having trouble attracting employees
Right.
and retaining them because they can't keep up.
Right.
And I think something else in this, oh, I'm sorry, is just defining affordable housing.
Yeah.
Because it's becoming a loophole. It's becoming a loophole for developers to increase density and say it's for affordable housing. Yet we have more than a lot of working people, working full-time who are working poor, that are homeless, living in cars. And so
Good luck
what's
with defining
affordable?
it, though. Try to define.
Yeah.
I think one of the things when we developed the comp plan back in 17, we recognized that this is not a product problem that is unique to Lewis. It's something that requires collaboration with the surrounding communities as well as the county. And I think to take this on singularly will never succeed, but there are still pockets of land that could be recognized as centers for affordable housing, and I would think we would want to make note of that and promote the idea of collaboration.
And collaborating with other nonprofits such
Of
as
course.
Habitat for Humanity.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Who can.
Well, and I think collaborate with profit making, with some of the developers too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We've got the Shell project that's, maybe gonna happen.
Right.
But I think we need to explore that and make some more overtures to them to incentivize them to do that. Maybe marrying some of the nonprofits with the developers would be a great way to go forward.
Exactly.
But I think realistically too, going back to the comment on the board about the cost of land, is that the collaborative with the county, with the little amount of land that we've got here to develop and the cost per acre, is it feasible to, within the city limits anymore? Or east of Route 1 even? So collaborating with the county is a much more logical solution.
You know, one of the things that, and I'll just throw this in, because of the complexity of housing, sometimes in a comp plan, it might be a good idea to articulate the complexity. Comp plans are great places where you can put down what's going on, the costs and the consequences and the trade-offs involved in the whole package. Set the stage, literally for anybody else who wants to pick the conversation up and move forward. And there's an art to that. You know, there's an art where you put it down, because this is not gonna go away. I mean, Ted, if I'm not mistaken, you know, when you start looking at your core values, this is one that got away.
Yeah.
And, you know, so comp plans are a way to actually, they're living documents, and you can write them in such a way that they become a living document and a working document. So that, I would just, sorry to butt in.
Good idea.
All right, so the next one is economic development plan. So marine commercial district include, work with the Chamber of Commerce, and delete bullets 2 and 3. And 2 and 3 are essentially the tourism piece. Yeah, tourism, both of them are tourism.
Ecotourism, ecotourism.
The thought there was, we're not really a tourist destination. We don't have a lot of expanded capability for it to really come up with a plan. We should be mindful of what the regional plan is, but we don't think the emphasis in the comp plan should be on the tourism aspect of life in Lewis.
Right.
I represent a mobile workforce where I've been working remotely pre-COVID for quite a few years, and, one thing I saw during COVID is that's now more of a reality for people my age, younger than me, older than me, and, I think some people moved here to Lewis and are doing that now, so to a way we can, I don't know if we need to encourage, but what can we do as a town to sort of foster what's going on there, potentially here already?
Got to improve our infrastructure. We've got to have better Wi-Fi connectivity. I mean, it's just,
I think one,
That's for sure.
one of the things that may be overlooked in this is the importance of developing alternative ways of getting here, like the water taxi. It's not yet a reality. And I think the potential for that now that Rehoboth has a real facility where they can dock is worth noting, and something that we should encourage. When I went with Rehoboth to Del Dot, when we were pushing to get a $300,000 grant from Del Dot, thank you very much, to help them get their project underway, because we already have dockage at Canal Front Park that could be utilized. And I think that's a multimodal way to get people here that does build a base. And I think if we're talking about economic development plan, that's one of the ways to help. And it's low impact on the environment.
It keeps people coming. Facilitate that. Anything else? Okay,
We had future land use plan.
okay, future land use. Is current annexation policy still the best interest of the city, requiring pre-annexation agreements? If so, what are the incentives? Encourage development of ventures that support basic needs, daily needs, hardware, general goods.
Yeah, so the idea would be, instead of opportunities that are consistent with the changing needs of the city, and I think as Lewis gets sort of cut off from what's happening on Route 1, it may behoove us to start encouraging the development of things that could sustain us, particularly since we do have an older population, of things that they can get to, that, if they need it, things to repair their home.
Community, then you're gonna have those destinations close by. And to target what as you're saying, things that are very, oriented to the needs that you have here, that doesn't have to be home goods. There's something for that. Anything else? Okay.
get over Route 1.
All right, so this was the annexation?
Yeah.
Okay, so annexation, potentials, revisions to the regs, incentives are problematic, defined benefits, new road, Hornkill, Enclave, Warrington.
Hey, Drew,
Warren.
Yeah, Drew.
pick up a call.
Savannah Extended, new road, Gill's Neck, up to Wellhead. So that would be new road, Gill's
Okay,
Neck,
right.
up to the Wellheads, right?
Safe
And
travel.
then Harbor Point. So there are potential areas for annexation. So you're looking at what? Revision to the regs, incentives, problematic. What do you mean by that?
Define, it was basically taken from what Andrew
What he
just said.
Very good. And then, so you need the benefits of coming into town,
Right.
right? Any other thoughts on annexation piece for the comp plan?
Ambitious, but perhaps Ritter Farm. Would we call it the Ritter Farm?
What is this?
Along the Canary Creek.
Ritter Farm along Canary Creek.
Okay.
I didn't understand what you said, I'm sorry.
Is that what we would,
Or at the end of, of course, yes, it's not the Ritter Farm. I don't know what the Ritter Farm.
Oh, I
Yes,
didn't know what that is.
I do know it, but yes, that would be annexation.
Yeah, good. You got that one? Okay.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on annexation?
Well, I think it was touched on, but one of the things is there is looking at the regs, because, if you look at it, it says if 5 or more property owners, and we're talking about potentially here along Savannah Road, the need to do onesie-twosies. And in our code, it says 5 or more, and it also talks about the fact that they need to be the ones that approach the city. And oftentimes it's the other way around, that it's the city kind of making the pitch to the potential landowners.
Good point.
Did you guys get your?
Yeah, we did, next page.
Any other thoughts on annexation? Okay, so I arbitrarily awarded this group the bonus point to move them into the areas of concern, even though, did you guys work on that too? You had a chance to do that?
We looked at it, we thought it should be a general discussion since it's so broad.
That's how we
Well,
thought.
there you go. Well, we'll get there. So here's some starting bullets, and then it can be a
For the
general.
lightning round.
All right, so the area of concern, the three bullets, right? The rapid pace of development, cooperation with the county, the state, and climate change and sea level rise. So there you go. Starting bullets. We're now in open discussion for the areas of concern.
I think one big area of concern is how, as the comp plan is being reviewed, we ensure that we're taking into consideration plans around us, both at the state level and in adjoining communities.
Yeah, the whole collaborative effort is really critical.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Association of Coastal Towns a vehicle to do more of that or not?
Well, the Association of Coastal Towns is working, but we are the 7 communities and we're primarily focused on sea level rise and climate change, but there's more to collaborate on than that. And one of the things we're trying to do is not only be the 7 communities, but also involve the county, because more than half of the oceanfront property is unincorporated.
Right.
And so we need, if we're gonna make changes, we need the cooperation of the county as well. So, yeah, it could be, yeah.
I mean, there really isn't an alternative regional planning body that addresses all of this.
The only thing that existed, that's been developed, was the 5-point study that Anne Marie participated in and has continued to participate in.
And we know that she's gonna get blamed for everything that's bad about it.
Now, there is the TID that was done,
Of
but it
course.
was the other side of, or that is being worked on.
It's going
It's
west.
the other side of Route 1.
I'm just the newbie, and this is probably already covered somewhere, but one of the issues that came up is septic tanks
Yeah.
and kind of incentives, and of course that's embedded in the whole discussion about annexation. But that is a huge water quality issue. So just an area of concern and strategies for developing, again, that may already be just part and parcel.
It is.
Yeah, we've been working for
Working on it.
4.5 years to annex a very large issue called Donovan Smith Mobile Home Park. And the state will fully fund the cost of rebuilding or putting in sanitary sewer and new water for them. We just have to get the developer and all the documents signed, but it's a huge project. You've probably seen it on TV, James.
As seen on TV.
As seen on TV, but don't try to go buy the best hardware.
So I guess from a legal point of view, is it where does it fall, changing the code to require no use of septic tanks
Well, you
or,
can in the city.
as we annex them?
That's part of the deal. That's what happened.
That is the deal.
That's what happened with Savannah Place. It's what happened
Right.
with Island Acres.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so that's what's happening, yes. Yeah.
So we just need to keep pushing.
Right. There are other areas we'd like to annex, that are in that area. There's Onesdale Farm, which is at the end of Donovan's Road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they're all on septic, and they drop off down to Canary Creek.
Areas of concern, going once?
I'll add one more area of concern, and that is, I'm just thinking of overriding things that as we, look at the comp plan, that we need to things that cut across areas. And one is just the effect of new technologies that I think we have to take into consideration in each of these areas. You know, whether it's people working remotely or EV charging units or changes that are going to occur in terms of Wi-Fi and connectivity, all of those things that sometimes our code lags behind these things. And we need to make sure we're thinking of these in the comp plan so then it rolls over into the code, et cetera.
Go ahead.
So this is just one issue, thinking about future land use planning. And this is more just to have in there as a placeholder. And it's a very hot button issue, but it is managed retreat. If you look at the NOAA maps now, where you can put in your own assumptions about what sea level rise would be, even at the most modest assumptions, you see sections of the coast of the United States just being underwater. So anyway, it's just managed retreat is an alternative to management by crisis. And just in terms of a comprehensive plan, it might be something that we want to at least put in there as a
Good idea.
Very good
idea.
Good idea.
So, what we're gonna do here is just, we've wrapped. You guys have done all your homework. I mean, you've done good. So just to close out, why don't we just, open it up and kind of to frame it. Think about, one, your core values. Think about the work that you just did. And what the conversation, are there any thoughts that you would like to say on with regarding how this all, what do you want to see in this comp plan revision? How do you want to approach it? Is that too big? Is that we talk about it today?
Well, yeah, I mean, if we've left anything that you feel needs to kind of be expressed, or, as you were mentioning, Bill, about the housing, that's an opportunity to talk about the challenges that are in there. Technology, to be able to ensure that, we're forward thinking in that type of infrastructure. And is there anything else that we've overlooked that needs to be brought out? Thinking of those core values, thinking about this as an opportunity in updating this comp plan that we haven't really either stressed or been able to convey in a manner that really speaks to those.
I just to say a concern of mine, maybe Anne Marie, you can speak to this, is, obviously the public could have attended tonight, but what other opportunities will the public at large have to sort of help guide us and shape what's coming out of this?
So, as Bill's mentioned, this is a goal, or this is a scope setting meeting. So based on this, what I anticipate is we will go back and outline a scope for the review of the comprehensive plan and bring it to council, and then work to bring on the consultant to work on that for us. So this is really just setting the scope, and when we get into talking about the individual things that have come up, that'll be, there will be public input through that process.
And I guess building on that, Andrew, I mean, my other concern is how do we structure engagement in a way that is productive? Because I think too often we're getting public comment at the end of a process and not the kind of engagement so people can understand the thinking that has gone in, what we've looked at, the steps we've taken, as opposed to kind of tasting the dinner at the end and saying, hey, I wanted more salt,
Well, Nancy.
So, and I think the answer to that is different for like the full redo of the comp plan than it is for a review. What I, as I've listened to discussions even leading up to the original presentation that Janelle made to mayor and council, I'm seeing in my head like an addendum to the plan that says, these are the things that have changed and these are the things that we want to revisit. So I think from a public engagement process, I think maybe setting up that framework, having some sort of a workshop once that framework's set up, and then, you know, when we have a consultant on board, and then having the consultant, you know, be part of that workshop and then kind of take what we get from there. Because I do think that a lot of the issues that are raised tonight are, things have just changed in 5 years. And we're doing our 5-year review. Just a reminder that the 5-year review is based on when the comp plan was certified. The comp plan was really written in 2015, and it took 2 years to really add those finishing touches, negotiate with the state on some of the things that they thought we needed to delve deeper into. And so even by the time the plan was adopted, there were probably some things that if we were starting it then, it would have been more up to date. So I think, you know, it's been 5 years, but it's really been more than 5 years since some of those things were truly explored.
And I think one of the things we frequently feel is that City Council and the Planning Commission are at opposite ends, but I think what we've heard here tonight is, this is a really good opportunity for all of us to be together, to have this conversation, that we have more in common in our goals than we have in differences. But I do think we have some major concerns, major issues that we need to come together on, not the least of which is what are we going to do with annexation in the future, what are we going to do about stormwater management, what are we going to do with sea level rise and things like that. And I think that what we probably need to do is focus on those items so that we can have a good, candid discussion about where this group is thinking and where they want to go collectively, and take the things where there's commonality between what the Planning Commission is attempting or is looking at and what we as council are looking at, and put those off to the side, not ignore them, but really concentrate on where the differences lie so that we can come out with a unified plan. Because I think developers and homeowners all get confused if they think that, you know, the Planning Commission says this, but the City Council says that. So to the extent that we can work on those things and develop a unified plan, I think we're way ahead of the game. And Bill and Carol Ann, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think we're good. You know, again, Mayor and Council, you'll see this on the agenda on the 13th. You know, I guess, Drew, we have the agenda meeting next week. Maybe we bring the same information to the Planning Commission on the 15th. And I think the way the state code is set up, the Planning Commission develops the comp plan, and it's really the task of the Planning Commission. But I think, as the mayor kind of mentioned, the collaboration between the two bodies is important. Because I think the comp plan's an opportunity to have the two bodies on the same page and to talk about those issues where so many times it's the Planning Commission deliberates, sends it to council, then council deliberates, and it can be a little disconnected. So this is an opportunity to really kind of meld those things together.
I do agree with Andrew, though. I think we do need to have public input earlier than later in the process. My original plan had been, as you've heard me say many, many times, that we would begin to hold some public sessions early in 2022 on the 5-year review. If we have a framework that is agreed upon sooner than later by this group, by both teams, I think we could facilitate that kind of meeting. And I think it's important to have enough outreach to the public, not that we're doing it separate and apart, but that we're having an opportunity at the earliest juncture, as Nancy's talked about, to see if we need more salt, to see if we need something else that's really burning. Because we all know we get the comp plan thrown in our face many different ways, many different interpretations for not necessarily advantageous reasons. And I think we really need to, you know, try and replicate what we had, if I may be so bold, with the water workshops. And we started that, we had 200 people in this room. If we can get that kind of turnout for comp plan, which is important, and really sell it to the community to come and be involved or to submit written comments, I think we'll all be better off.
Here, here.
And I just want to say, I think it's, you know, I don't know how we're going to combat this trend, but I see after COVID and people just being more isolated, we are back now to when it affects someone's livelihood or self-interest, they'll come out. Otherwise, we don't see those people. And then we have a core, you know, a small core group of people who are involved in most
What we don't know
things.
is how many people are watching on YouTube tonight. So-
I know, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
So,
So, Mr. Mayor, are you going to adjourn us?
I think unless there's anything further anyone would like to say, anybody at the table have anything else? I think we can adjourn this meeting. Bill and Caroline, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
And Mayor and Council, you will see these folks next week at, they're gonna be
Do the
at
strategic.
the strategy session.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, welcome to Planning Commission.
Yeah, good team.
Nice to meet you.
We wouldn't trade any of us, right?